This channel is supported by Fire. Fire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. Okay, so the short summary version of this review, if you've not got much time, this is a guitar that I think the spec is a lot better than the price would suggest. What you do get, locking tuners up here, they are Jet branded. We've got a Wilkinson trem. For some reason this actual trem I don't think is made for this guitar because it's not holding in particularly well. Or maybe it needs tightening up, but also it sits too flush, so I'm not sure if that's the right trem. However, yeah, bone nut as well, which is nice. This comes in at a really nice weight of £7.4, nearly £7.5, but that's a pretty seriously lightweight guitar, especially for the cheaper end of the market where things can get a bit heavier. Flame maple top, I'm not sure what the wood is on the back, I'll flash that up here, and roasted maple neck. The frets don't have sharp edges, feel pretty good. The one sort of downside maybe is that there was some kind of fret buzz and stuff like that. Does it play like a guitar 3 times its value? No. But with a setup, I think this could be a pretty serious instrument, probably. Tuning stability was also a bit dodge, but again, that might be something that could be rectified with the setup. And I guess at £300, you could certainly probably afford to get that set up. One of the brands that I've been asked quite a lot to review is Jet guitars. Now, these came on the scene in 2020, I believe, and there's a lot of sort of demos on YouTube of them. I'm sure you've heard of them before. This won't be the first time. But they're sort of a Polish brand, but the guitars are being built in China in various factories, apparently. And of course, the idea with these, I would posit, is that you're getting something sort of spec'd a bit like a Sire. Now, I was semi-skeptical about them. I wasn't going to go out and grab one, but they asked me to review one, and I said yes. So they've sent a couple out. They're not paying me to make this review, but I didn't have to pay for these guitars, so take that for what it's worth. This is a 300-ish pound guitar. This is the JS450. I don't know exactly why I picked this one, except to me it looks a little bit like a Sire, which can't be a bad thing. It's got Wilkinson trem, which I was pleasantly surprised by. Wilkinson do make some really decent hardware. Actually, K-Line use Wilkinson trems, not this exact block, but on their guitars. Other specs, it's got like a roasted maple neck. Now, again, I think this became a trend because it might have been a way to use less mature maple and save some costs in that way, rather than it being a better thing. I've got to assume that's part of the motivation for this. Anyway, this is a two-piece maple neck, so got adjustment at the truss rod, and then sort of the fingerboard and the back of the neck are two separate pieces of wood. So the truss rod will be put on the front, right, and then the fingerboard over the top of that. The maple, I think, looks pretty neat. There's not anything obviously wrong with the guitar, which at this price point I was expecting maybe some sort of QC flaws. This one has been hung, I think, on a hanger in a store by the look of things, which is why there's a bit of a mark there. There's a little bit of fret gouging here. I think that must be from kind of shipping, with the strings kind of scraping on it. Not super well polished, to be honest. That would be one area, but I don't know whether that's happened in transit or not. The fret edges feel generally pretty good, not dissimilar to sort of like a PRS Silver Sky SE sort of feel to it. Like, there's not really sharp fret edges, a nice bevel to them, but maybe could be a little bit more polished if you were being fussy around sort of the bevels. Those have some sort of edges to them. And then again, on top, there seems to be some sort of tooling marks, but again, I'm not totally sure. That might be from in transit, those scraping around. There's a nice kind of grain to the fretboard as well. So I'm quite impressed. It reminds me of the Aria guitars that I demoed. I think they might even be sharing some sort of factory here, because to me it seems awfully similar. Anyway, what does it sound like? What does it play like? I did notice that the action is a little bit low here, or maybe the fretboard or fret job isn't going to allow super low action. It sort of started to have a little bit of fret buzz around the 12th fret. How does it sound? Well, like a guitar. I'm going to tune it again just before. This one actually has locking tuners, which are really quite nice, kind of like a vintage style, but locking. So let's just try the trem a bit, I guess. So not holding G particularly well. It does have a bone nut. Floating as well, 2 point. So yeah, I think the tuning stability with this trem, not amazing. So I did think, I was sort of expecting maybe to be able to say, oh look, see, like a PRS Silver Sky costs, you know, twice as much. That's the first time sort of plugging it in, and so you see, you know, like a lot of videos on these kind of things, and to me, I've got some idea of what to expect, I think, of a guitar at this kind of price. And I'd say for £300, you're getting quite a lot of guitar for the money. A nice trem unit, but I do think that maybe you might want to consider factoring in a setup on top of that price, because, yeah, for me, it's not necessarily perfect playing. I put kind of the Sire playability and the PRS playability, the ones that I played them, a step above this, although the finishing on this, I think possibly, you know, less flaws than I've noticed on some of the Sire instruments, but playability I'd put kind of just behind that. I do think, you know, if you get a chance to play one of these in a store, some of the specs I find quite compelling, especially when you consider what else would be on the market at this kind of price point. So I think it's a really interesting thing to have in stores, you know, next to things like a Yamaha Pacifica, next to things like Squire Classic Vibes, next to the lower end Ibanez's. I think it definitely holds its own there. The neck feels kind of comfortable. I'll throw up the specs on that now. I'm going to go and weigh it, but all in all, you know, for the money, I think you're getting quite a lot of guitar. Could use a setup, I think. Let me know your thoughts if you've got a Jet guitar. I know Dave from up the road, he has a Jet guitar which he really likes. I think he swapped some things out on it, but maybe it could be a good candidate as well if you like the feeling of the neck for some swaps and stuff like that. All in all, I think that Squire 40th anniversary that I grabbed this week, I was a bit more impressed with, to be honest. So, you know, it's there in that sort of level of quality, but quite reasonably priced. Quite a good looking instrument, I think, as well. Let me know your thoughts. Cheers for stopping by.